And so it says applicant or contractor shall post signage indicating restrictions on recreational use of the lake. Signage shall be posted at least 24 hours in advance of the planned treatment. Signs shall be displayed at a minimum at boat launch access locations, beaches, other common lake access points as needed. So I was wondering if we should also require that there be signage on the streets around the lake for residents that have direct access from their property, rather than just at the public accesses, because those are, I think, be different people using the lake. Someone who lives in a house might not ever go to the beach access point to see the signage.
Or maybe at the roads.
Right. Yeah, like at the road, like when you're going.
Road or down the way you would, so the residents are driving in that way and you'd see it.
Yeah.
That makes
Makes
sense. Yeah.
And I know we talked about an email list. I don't know if we keep that informal or if we document that in the condition.
I think if we put that in a condition, it should be something that's on the applicant. I think I'd rather be something that I administer personally.
Okay, that's fine.
For the signage along the streets, is there particular, do we want to do immediately abutting streets, or direct?
I think so. I think, yeah.
And then would that be on a telephone pole? Like, what are the rules for signing?
I think it could be up to DPW. Like, they might be able to use the message board if they wanted to, or
Yeah,
it
that
might
would
be
be
smaller
perfect, the
signs,
message
Yeah,
board.
they can figure it out.
whatever they got.
So you'd have what, Hayward Street, County Street, and Gold Coast?
Probably west down.
On that point, is 24 hours standard? I don't use that lake much anymore, so I'm not there often. My inclination is 48 hours notice. I'm not exactly sure why I like that better, but if
Yeah.
that's standard, that's fine. It just seems, I don't know.
I had a note, maybe 5 days.
Oh,
But there's no
I
rhyme
like
or
that
reason
even
to
better.
that, but.
If you put it out too early, then people ignore it.
Right, no, I agree with that too, but I'm not saying a month early, but.
And just to play devil's advocate, my experience with the lake contractors is that they are heavily dependent on the weather. So for them to...
So it's hard to predict 48 hours even?
48 hours I think would be doable for them.
I'm not even exactly sure why I
5
like that
days?
better, but I feel like a little more notice is better, and 48 hours is too bad for predicting weather, I wouldn't think.
Okay.
That's a good comment. $40. Gives you a little bit more time.
That was all I had.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Melissa, you're worth more money.
Right?
Oh, you want me to come up with some more?
All right, we'll give her a raise.
Yeah, you'd be earning twice as much as
Leave a promotion or a raise. Okay, any other comments from the commission? All right, we good?
I think we're good. I can incorporate those changes.
So we'll need to sign this, right, before the next meeting?
Yep, I have a signature page.
Okay.
Here
All right, so we
tonight.
can just sign the signature page and make the changes. Okay. All right, let's move on to new hearings. This is the wetland regulations for applying the Hockin Wetland Protection Bylaw. We have proposed revisions to section 1.4, which is the fees portion of the bylaw. Kim will bring those up, but I'll read the public Hearing notice, the Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 10th, 2022, at 7:00 PM at the Hopkinton Senior Center, 28 Mayhew Street, to hear all persons interested in proposed changes to the Town of Hopkinton's wetland protection regulations, Section 1.4, which is the fee schedule. Okay. So I think the last time these were updated was over 10 years ago. So Kim and I were talking about increasing the filing fees under the bylaw, so it's more in line with and consistent with what the commission needs in order to review these projects. So, I don't know, Kim, do you want to kind of walk through the changes for us?
So as Jeff had said, we're looking at about a 30% increase in the fees across the board. That is basically accounting for the inflation and the increased costs that have occurred since the last time that we updated these. And looking at it's called our 53.5 account. It's been running a deficit for the past couple of years, and we're getting down there. The main expenses that we pay for out of this account are the Lucas Environmental on-call expenses, like their travel time, some of their time at the meeting, their time that they spend creating accounting for us for the 53G accounts, which are the peer reviews, and our bills with Murray's and Harrington, which is the town council legal services. So the updated fees are minor projects moved from $50 to $100. The single-family dwelling moves from $300 to $400. A subdivision moves from $1,500 to $2,000. Same thing with multiple family and condominium structures and commercial projects. The other area where I kind of made a bigger change under abbreviated notice of resource area delineations. Previously, the commission was charging based on a two-tiered system, with the first tier being a single-family home and the second tier being all other projects. I am proposing to change this system to a system based on the size of the parcel, because an ANRAD is filed without a project objective, and it's not the applicant's not required to tell the commission what their project is with an ANRAD, so it kind of didn't really make a lot of sense. So I'm proposing that subject parcels less than 2 acres in size are kind of a lower tier, or that lower tier where the fees would be $130, and then subject parcels equal to or greater than 2 acres in size are going to be that higher tier of $400. And that should encompass, that shouldn't hit most of the single-family lots in town. I coordinated with the planner so that most single-family lots are still going to be in that first lower tier at that size cutoff. And then the RDA moves from $50 to $100.
Okay. And if you remember, earlier this year, we adjusted the consultant fees, so those are more in line with what Kim is seeing for Lucas Environmental to go out and review the projects, so we require that fee up front. And that's, again, it's more in line, so Kim doesn't have to go chasing these folks down, for an hour or two extra that was spent on the project. It's paid up front. part of the application. So hopefully that's helped you out.
That has already started to improve a lot, so thank you.
Okay, any comments from commission members?
On just the first page or on any?
Yep, so the first page is kind of a table that's in the bylaw,
Yeah.
and then the pages 6, 7, and 8 are the actual narrative
In the regulations.
in the regulations, so those all have to be carried through so it's consistent.
So it's more to help my understanding. I'm not suggesting any change. I'm looking at page 6 at the very top, Kim. I guess it's a two-part question. Why are we switching from 2 hours consultant fee to a dollar figure on those top two, or 3 hours minimum to a dollar figure?
So we kind of made that change when we did the consultant fee consideration. So we were seeing different numbers of hours, especially depending on applications like COCs. Sometimes there's a single-family home COC, sometimes there's a subdivision COC. Sometimes the applicant is requiring Lucas Environmental, they want to meet with them on site on certain, even if it's an RDA or whatnot. So in consultation, with Lucas and thinking about these items, we just felt that the hourly system was kind of outdated at this point.
Is the assumption that 480 is equivalent to 2 hours of consulting in that top column?
I believe the Lucas Environmental is now scoping for 3.
So 480 is 3 hours?
Yeah.
Roughly?
Yeah.
The rate's 160,
Okay.
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
All right, well, that answers my next question then, because I was seeing if 480 is 2 hours, then 3 hours should be 720, I thought. But 480 is 3 hours. All right.
And what we did too with that is we looked at the last 3 years and how many hours were billed to all the different, here's how many hours Lucas is typically spending on an RDA, here's how many, and then we came up with that kind of new tier.
Kim did a nice little analysis of, we weren't just pulling these out of the air.
No, again, it was more for my understanding than any suggestion of change or anything.
It becomes very difficult to backfill applicants for, $50 especially when they're on a COC and they sold the house
Yeah.
by.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions or comments? Questions or comments from the audience?
Wait, did you have one?
Yeah, so how do we do this? Do we need to do this at town meeting?
So these are regulations. This is not the bylaw.
Oh, okay, right. So the answer is no.
Yeah, we can vote on it.
But the definitions, page 8, come from, okay, those are regulations.
Regulations.
Right.
So the bylaw simply says the commission has the authority to establish fees at their discretion.
Okay. Thank you.
So, I confess to being a little bit baffled. We have a subdivision filing fee of $2,000 plus $7 per foot of road within the 50-foot no disturb zone. What happens if they're within the 100-foot? Oh, I guess that's just considered a buffer zone. All right. I think I answered my own question.
He's no longer baffled.
No, I'm still baffled, but.
Do you need a motion?
Sure. I need a motion to approve the increase in the filing fees as outlined here by Tim.
I will make that motion.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
Before we vote, any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. All right, thank you for putting that together, Kim.
Yeah, good job.
Okay, 6 Leon's Way, this is a continuation of the notice of intent for an in-ground pool. Good evening.
Good evening. for the record, Ryan Rosine with Goddard Consulting.
How are you doing, Ryan?
Good, how are you? And I also have the applicant, Ari, here with me.
Ari Pallavi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you all.
So at the last meeting, some members had some questions about certain things, so we'll just go over a couple of them. One of them was about the possibility of pervious or permeable pavers. Ari here has decided on concrete patio because it's less expensive. That's pretty much the main reason. The pavers are just incredibly expensive at this time. And there's another question of possibly being able to move the pool and patio, the whole structure, further outside the buffer zone. But we have this water service line from the well right over here, and we don't want to have to put any concrete or anything over that in case it ever needs to be serviced. It would create a much bigger issue for doing that down the future, instead of just, right now it's just lawn. Also, Kim had some questions about the possibility of stabilization of that corner area where the erosion control matting is. We feel that there's not going to be an issue with that. I mean, they're in the front or to the side of the house. There's a steeper slope that was permitted under the house notice of intent, and it has successfully stabilized. And we're really not actually planning on doing that much work right there, but we still will put down the erosion control. But we don't feel that there's any issue with it having any issues with stabilization.
So I think the other was the dry well for the pool.
Yes. So there's actually in this corner house that's right next to where the pool filter is. There's a existing line that goes to the dry well down over here. So it's just going to be tied right into there, to the downspout that's on this corner of the house that then flows into that dry well.
Okay. So the pump will be hard right to that. Is that correct?
Yes. Is it?
That was the intent.
Yeah. It's like a probably 2 feet or 1 foot. I'm not exactly. It's a short distance.
Yeah, there's two. There's one on the corner here, and there's also one on either corner here. So depending on how it flows out with because the air conditioning system's over here as well, we'll just tie it into whichever one's the closest.
Okay.
And make sure it's pitched appropriately and yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's good. And then I think the last item was the mowing of the lawn in the back. Kim did a little bit of research on this and was determined that I don't even think that's on your property, that's an abutting property.
There's existing, so that our yard has just all freshly planted grass, which is all stabilized. There's natural grasses all below the rock wall, and then kind of towards the back, which is our neighbor's property, which is all naturalized. I would estimate it probably to be, I don't know, probably about 18 inches right now, and it doesn't get mowed. But our existing grass will get mowed out to our property boundary, and our desire would be for our kids to be able to utilize that freshly planted grass as is, and to keep it mowed and maintained for their safety.
Yep, I think Ted raised the question, beyond your property line going back.
Yeah.
I think that was being mowed.
It shouldn't be, or I'm not mowing it, and it doesn't look to be mowed. We just moved into the house in March, and it doesn't look to be mowed previously.
Okay.
Yeah. There's like some stakes right now that delineate our property line, and our grass literally goes up to those stakes, and then there's like a little bit of natural grass kind of behind it, which is not getting mowed and won't be mowed. I don't have any intent to.
Okay. Okay. Kim, did you have anything else?
I guess my only question is, how were the dry wells sized originally? Is it collecting roof runoff?
It's collecting roof runoff. We ran it by the engineer. As long as we're not backwashing during a time of heavy rainfall within 48 hours, then there shouldn't be an issue. We're going to be discharging about 150 to 300 gallons per backwash, which I've been a pool owner and maintainer before. If we don't have to backwash during a heavy rainstorm, we won't, and we can wait until everything is good. So we ran it by the engineer.
And that slope, I'm assuming it'll be maintained as lawn area?
Yeah, so the area, you know, what's going to be stabilized right now, we're not going to disrupt that during construction. We're just going to disrupt where the hole's being dug. So that will be maintained as grass. It won't be disturbed, and we didn't have any desire to rip it up to then do something else with if we don't have to.
I'm just trying to make sure if I'm not the same. I'm talking about kind of this area here.
Yeah, it's not going to be disturbed during construction, so we'll put the matting down.
You don't need to grade to accommodate the corner of the pool.
It's flat. I don't know if, I know you
Yes.
talked to Dan about it.
So we ran this by the engineer, and the engineer thinks that some minor grading has to happen, which is why it's shown like that. But Ari, who has installed some pools himself, and he's done this before, and with talking with him, he doesn't plan on disturbing that area. And it's all flat back there. I mean, there's no real need to disturb that or grade that area. So, yeah, I'm not exactly, the engineer kind of put those in there.
I see what you're saying, Kim. It doesn't make sense to have proposed grading lines if you're not grading. I mean, maybe you don't need to, but it seems weird to have that on a plan that we're approving because it looks like you're grading.
Definitely.
I mean, maybe you're not, but the way the plan
that's
looks.
why that's kind of what we brought up to the engineer, but the engineer.
Because I don't know why you would need slope stabilization if you're not grading. Like, I don't even think you'd need. Why would you need to protect? Why would you need the erosion control matting?
I said the same thing, to be honest, but I trust, you know.
I mean, yeah,
I think
engineer put it.
the engineer put it, I think, as a, you know, sort of catch-all, just with regards to the disturbance that we're going to be doing in this area. I think he kind of overdid it, so to speak. But I've excavated pools before. The excavator is going to be right in the shallow end here. It's going to move all the dirt. Nothing over here is going to be disturbed. And when we go to pour this concrete on this corner, you're going to excavate down probably 6-8 inches and put some gravel in. And I don't see a strong need. The only thing that might be kind of funky is there's a cap of a rock that's delineated here, and the only thing that we may try and do is just chisel the top of it off so it's below grade when we go to put the concrete on top. But I don't see a need right now to, you know, change that. Yeah.
Yeah, but they are on there in case it
Yeah.
does happen, in case he runs into an issue where he does then need to grade it. But I mean, once you get a as-built, it will all be shown as what the existing grades are. So.
Okay with that?
Through the chair, can I ask a question? Sure. Are we saying then the plan with the existing contour lines is incorrect? Because the existing contour lines, if I'm reading it correctly, says that the 316 line cuts through the deep end of the pool, the 317 cuts through the shallow end and exits to the north of the pool. So it does need to be regraded, which would lead to a steep grading at that corner of the pool, wouldn't it? The existing contour lines do not say the backyard is flat.
I mean, yes, there is a slope, but that's a very gentle slope for the distance.
Yeah, but
between
nonetheless, if we're going to have the pool be level, we have to move where the 317 line is outside the pool, which means the 316 has to move in the 315, which means we're creating a steeper slope. You're taking a soft slope this distance and turning it into a steeper slope this distance.
Yeah, which is why the engineer had put these grade lines. So I guess there's a difference in opinion between the engineer and the applicant. I guess that's the basis. So if these grades do need to be changed as they're shown here, they'll be changed to what they're shown on the plan.
So I would say I'm not comfortable voting on a plan unless I see a plan that the applicant agrees is accurate.
I agree with this plan.
So then how can you, so then there will be a steep grade at that corner of the pool? Because
I
there's
think
no other way to move.
Yeah, I think that's what we assumed for
So
Yeah, yes,
for the decision on this plan.
yes,
that
that's
it
how
will
will
be as a, see, okay. Then maybe I misunderstood.
And if anything differs from this existing plan to what is then built, it will be shown on the as-built and be discussed during a COC request. But this plan as shown is what is proposed.
Through the chair, may I ask another question? Sure. So my understanding is there's no interest in moving the pool further out of the buffer, even though there is some space over by the water service. The patio to the north of the pool could be a little smaller to allow some movement, but there's no interest in that. And there's no interest in impervious surface around the pool.
So I'll answer those. So I kind of spoke to that a little bit earlier. So the reason we're not moving the whole structure, the whole pool patio,
Because of the water pipe.
is because of the water pipe. And if there's ever an issue with the water service, you don't want to have to dig up, break up the concrete,
Right, I understand.
dig it up. And so that's the reason to not move it any further outside of the
Although
buffer
there
zone.
is a little bit of wiggle room, as Ed pointed out last time we were here. And then my point is, but you could also make the patio smaller to the north, which would then allow things to shift.
So that patio is sized to have loungers in that area. And so
Yeah.
that's what the applicant would like to have. And I understand that you're concerned with it being in the buffer zone. However, I mean, this buffer zone isn't technically even acting as a real buffer zone. It's all lawn. It's not naturalized buffer zone. So we feel it's a pretty minor intrusion into the buffer zone. It is in the buffer zone, but it's minor.
Well, a third of the project's in the buffer zone.
But there's a lot more buffer zone on the property that is natural and undisturbed.
Or semi-natural, because there's also no interest in ceasing mowing east of the pool, where we could kind of ameliorate some of what we lose.
I understand, and I would agree to that only if part of what our project was disturbing a naturalized area. It's all grass, so we feel that there's no need or want to kind of mitigate for a loss that's not there, if that makes sense.
So, I have a question, I guess, to stormwater expert. So, I guess, are we concerned that we've got a big concrete slab, stormwater running off down a steep slope into the buffer zone? I mean, is it gonna be able to recharge anywhere before it goes flowing down flowing down that steep slope?
Which didn't exist before the pool.
Right, so you're pointing out that you're creating impervious area for additional runoff.
Legit point.
Yeah.
I mean, there is the riprap wall that, I mean, there is, once the area is stabilized, I mean, it is a slope, so water will run down faster than what it is now, but then there's that riprap slope before you get further into the buffer zone, and then eventually into the wetland. And all that area down below that riprap slope is naturalized. It's tall grasses that doesn't get mowed or anything like that, so.
Through the chair, the point is the riprap slope is not a BMP, creating more dirt there and treating it, that's the point, but all that being said, I don't like seeing more impervious area, but I do agree that typically we allow this type of thing, if it's an already lawn area, and it'll be up to the applicant. It's gonna erode the slope if he doesn't take care of it, but you're not gonna wanna see that in your backyard, so you're gonna deal with it.
Sure.
The real issue would be if you have a big event, especially during construction, and it washes a lot of sediment into the wetland area, and then you're gonna have to fix it.
Right. Yeah, we understand that, and that's part of the reason why that matting is there, to help with that slope.
When you've done construction, you know that's not gonna help until it's all stabilized.
Well, our intent is when we excavate, we're going to remove the dirt off-site immediately. It's not going to sit there. And we already have the materials prepared, and our goal is to actually have this pool in within 2 weeks and complete. Concrete's lined up, everything's lined up. So I've done a 12-month pool build before, and this is not going to be that.
through the chair, so there will not be a temporary stockpile because you're going to take the dirt off?
It's there as a contingency plan. It will be put there. The dirt will be excavated there, but within probably 2 to 3 days of excavation, and it will then be trucked out. It's not going to be trucked same day.
Can the pool be moved within the patio?
It could, yeah, but it will impede the plans that our family has put together for this pool.
Does it make a difference where the loungers go?
Well, so the loungers are on that side because of the water service line. This pool structure has to be at least 10 feet from the water line. And so that's why the pool's on that side and the bigger side of the patio is on the side that it's on. Because if we move the pool any closer, we would move it only approximately 3 to 4 feet because we don't want to get too close. And then it wouldn't be enough on the other side of the pool to fit loungers. So that's our reasoning for that.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission?
Through the chair,
Yep.
did we address PIBs in this discussion?
We did not.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
PIBs,
Ah.
one of the,
Well, we had talked about them last time.
I believe that the commission requested that medallions be added
right.
at the bottom of the,
Yes, we're fine with adding those.
it's typically something we do like to see on the plan.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that. And so how far apart do you guys usually go? I mean, we can, if you would like, we can have this as a condition to show an updated plan with those medallions as part of before work starts, but.
I believe the commission in the past has done about 30 feet. Correct, or not?
Yeah, you're fine with that?
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
And I guess my question would be, to what extent, how far back should the POVs go? Do they end at the retaining wall? Do they need to go to the edge of the property line?
So previously, the PIB is the riprap,
Yep,
and then it just kind of,
kind of ended.
So where the riprap curls north, that wasn't meant to be an extension of the PIB?
Not to my understanding. So I went back and reviewed the meetings associated with this. It was a little bit, it honestly was a little bit unclear from the original meeting.
And through the chair, the applicant is not interested in entertaining that thought, that we extend it through there.
Of extending the riprap wall is what you're talking
Not
about?
the wall, but just the PIB, to say beyond there is,
The medallions?
Yeah.
I mean, go to the property line, or are you okay with, every 30 feet going along?
Sure.
and then the other side would be left undisturbed.
The other
I think,
side, yeah.
I think Ted is talking about
Are you-
establishing a PIB
That's what I'm
approximately in
saying.
this
Oh.
location,
That's what I'm saying.
so such that this area would be natural.
So
That's
that's basically
exactly right.
cutting across the existing lawn?
Yes, and allowing the eastern end from where the riprap curls to return to natural.
I don't think that that's what the
But
applicant
would you entertain that? No?
I think it would compromise the safety of my kids that play back there with the tall grasses. We've been having a lot of ticks, and
So, I just want to point out that I think we've raised, several of us, legitimate questions,
Mhm.
and what I hear is zero compromise on your side. So there's no place where any of our suggestions are going to work for your plans.
Well, a lot of it is due to cost with the permeable pavers
Yep,
and the water service line.
yep.
We are putting
And
them,
that we need 17 feet for lounge chairs on the deck. There's no place to compromise with what I think are legitimate concerns about the project.
we understand your concerns, but I'm going to reiterate that, it all is existing lawn.
Yeah, I know, which is still a little different from impervious surfaces. And it's existing flat, or flat-ish lawn, which is now going to become steep lawn with So the answer is no, you're not looking, none of our suggestions.
I'm willing to compromise, but you had asked about a couple things, and I had just given my responses with respects to my concerns behind them. So I didn't necessarily say no to anything, I just responded with, these are the reasons why we're choosing to do this, or
Right.
this would be the reasons why I don't want to naturalize the lawn in the backyard.
Right.
But I didn't say no to anything, I just would hope that you guys would consider some of the safety concerns and, you know, the monetary investment that I need to make in the pool decking and things like that, but the answer is not just a flat no. I thought it was more of a conversation, and then we...
Well, right, but every time we brought up a suggestion, the response seemed to be, no, I'm not interested in doing this. So if it's not a flat no, could the patio be smaller? Which then allows the pool to shift further north, which gets some of the project out of the buffer zone, which also makes it so the slope wouldn't have to be so steep. Could you let the lawn go and put a fence up so your kids don't go into the tall grass?
It wouldn't be my desire to, you know, with regards to the grass, but if shortening the pool deck a few feet is what we're after, I mean, yeah, I guess it sounds like I don't really have a choice, to be honest.
No, you're hearing from one person. I don't
Yeah.
make the decision for the commission.
You know, I took a long time to come up with this plan and the, you know, the cost and the budget and everything regarding this project. And I am proposing it exactly as how I would like to proceed with it. If there's something I can do that would, you know, satisfy everyone on the south side with plantings or things like that, the medallions will do. But I guess I'm not really sure what other things you guys might be looking for.
I'd be in favor of a smaller deck. 17 feet. I understand loungers, but 17 feet is a lot of space for a lounger.
Where are you guys seeing the 17 feet from?
Below, so where it says 19 feet to the left of security fence, where the stairs are on the existing deck, it says it's 19 feet from the edge of the pool to the water line, so assuming that means it's a 17 foot deck, it's probably 2 feet above that.
Let me just see really quickly. It should be 14 feet, so it should be 6 feet on the south side and 14 feet on the north side. How much smaller were you guys hoping to go? That's going to be where the entrance is, where the stairs are. So I'd at least like to make sure there's enough space for, you know, I have a 4- and a 5-year-old to be able to walk around safely and, you know, not fall into the pool. But
So I have a pool right up against a wetland buffer. We didn't install it, but we moved in and it was obviously fit in a tight area, and we have 6 feet around the whole pool, and that's it. I agree, it would be nice to put a lounge chair, but that's...
so what would the board propose for how much smaller?
I think, through the chair, in the past, your answer, Jeff, has been it's not our job to design plans.
Right. But I guess the question for the applicant is what would you feel comfortable with?
Yeah, I'm struggling with this because, you know, a large portion, in my opinion, is within the 100-foot buffer zone, and the angst that having a PIB going off the tail of the wall across the backyard, which is basically nearly entirely within the 100-foot buffer zone, it doesn't seem to me that's a big deal. I find myself oftentimes when I'm looking at what people are trying to do in buffer zones, and it bothers me. That's all I can say. I mean, I live in like Whitehall. We have what used to be a little pool behind the house. I am really sensitive to this stuff. I'm sorry. And I've always tried to kind of live within our space and not be trying to achieve nirvana, I guess. Okay.
All right, so I'll defer to, Ted and Ed, if you can give the applicant some direction on, what you guys, what you're looking for in terms of size.
So I guess, I also have been someone who had a pool, and we never had anywhere close to a 15, 14, whatever you said. We had 6 feet is what we had. And if a lounge chair, if the horizontal part of it is, I'm going to guess, 4 feet long, put at an angle, 6 feet is a lot of room to get by. I've been by pools where toddlers have been toddling by and they didn't fall in because the lounge chair was there. I think, what did you say you thought it was 14? I think that that's at least twice as wide as it needs to be. I think that if we are going to have a third of the project, if the pool doesn't move, I'm guessing a third of it is in the buffer, and it's reasonable as an exchange to give nature some of the buffer back. If the PIB were extended and the back of the yard became natural, I would go a lot easier on the pool. I'm not looking for all of my suggested changes. I'm saying we have offered different concerns, and there's different ways to find an in-between. And I think Ed's with me on the buffer zone. I don't know, Ed, if you would insist on moving the pool as well. But I feel like somehow less impact on the buffer zone or giving back some of the buffer zone is where the in-between is.
Yeah, and I would pretty much echo that.
Okay, so why don't we continue this out, you guys can take a look at it and see what, you want to do and not do.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What about the other commission members feel? Are they on the same page as the other? Or, I'm just trying to get a whole picture of the commission.
We don't normally poll the members, right?
I'm not asking for a poll, I'm just asking for general kind of thoughts.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I was going to say, in the pool, converting the lawn to a pool seems to be consistent with the spec that we've permitted in the past. The argument about the lawn, considering you're sacrificing lawn for the pool, is where I have a hard issue. Like, yeah, you want pool for everything. And in general, the whole safety argument, that's not in our jurisdiction to determine safety. I understand. So, in me personally, I would permit the pool, but I do think that the PIB and an extension of the naturalized area, because there's so much wetland buffer disturbance back there, is a reasonable compromise.
Is there an opportunity to discuss, instead of naturalizing the grass that's there, doing some sort of other plantings or something that's not tall grasses that will bring ticks closer to the house? Because it's not a matter of not willing to do something, but I have a genuine concern. We picked 6 ticks off us this year this far, with respects to the tall grasses.
You live right next to the wood. You're going to have ticks. You live in Massachusetts. But that's why you have a wetlands consultant. He can provide you some kind of guidance on other plantings that you think would...
Well, I'm asking the board if there's, or the commission if there's...
Again, we don't design it for you, so I would suggest asking a consultant.
I'm not asking for design, I'm asking if we come up with other plantings, if it's the natural grasses that we're after, or if there's the opportunity to pick something else.
I think the commission likes to avoid, groomed lawn where fertilizers are put down, things like that are what we're trying to avoid in buffer zones.
Okay.
Where it can contribute additional pollutants and whatnot from runoff in
Native
that area.
pollinator friendly
so.
Type stuff would be something that I would be.
That's something we can decide on
Yeah,
tonight.
so like trees or shrubs for those?
Not necessarily trees or shrubs.
Or it could be, I mean,
Native.
it's,
So the answer is that, the commission would be amenable to, other plantings.
Yeah, that's where we're trying to go after, what sort of, like, if you would be amenable to trees, but not have tall grass around the trees, planted a number of trees or shrubs.
I think in my opinion, that the idea is moving away from manicured, fertilized lawn. So anything that's not that, where you have to put fertilizer down, be mowing it constantly, where it'll be running off into the wetland, those pollutants. That's what we're trying
If
to
the back
promote.
lawn turns into woods, that works. But then there are ticks in the woods. So,
Just ticks in lawns.
Yeah.
It's like manicured lawns.
So
Okay.
native wildflowers,
I think we have to move along here.
meadow.
So I think you get the feedback from the commission. Continue this out to the next meeting.
Yes.
So forth. The client, we'll have to
Yes, just-
take another look at this and see what you can do based on the comments from the commission. Okay.
I think I would put, so you'll put the PIV marker along the existing PIV, but I would also put some sort of I think we're looking for an end point too, whether it's the property line or something more interior, right?
I like the line you just drew, Kendall. No, that, a second ago, the hand moved everywhere.
Questions or comments from the audience?
I just want to make sure I understand, so smaller pool deck and something on the backside of the new proposed PIB, is that correct?
That would be fantastic.
Okay, I need a motion to continue this out to the 24th.
So moved.
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay. Draft minutes of March 15th, 2022. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at those? Any comments or questions? Any motion to approve?
So move.
And a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hopkins Parks and Rec, Sandy Beach, this is a request for a certificate of compliance.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
full disclosure, I helped Parks and Rec put together their request by reviewing plans that I found and walking the site and confirming what was done. So I'm going to recuse myself from any vote, and I'm going to chime in if Jay needs some chime in.
Sit on that side there?
You want me to sit over there?
No, I'm just kidding.
I'll sit out in the hallway if you want me to.
Sorry.
Jay, you should know that Kim handed out the actual plans, which you can read. 327 plans, which I don't think are those.
So I can,
What
Yep,
did they say?
I was just about to say, for the benefit of the commissioners, you have some plans in your packet, 11 by 17, and those are the original approved plans. Some of the original approved plans associated with the project. I can send them to you, I didn't realize you needed them.
Yeah, it's so just a little history on this. For those who don't know, this project was done, I'm going to say 10, 12 years ago. It was supposed to be in two phases, phase one, phase two. Phase two was never actually done. So it was just phase one, which was improving the beach area, building a bathhouse, building some volleyball courts, building a playground, and then building that, if you've ever been to Sandy Beach, the bridge that connects the parking lot to the park itself. So that's what was done. Parking lot was not done, and there was going to be a secondary loop with some paths and seating that was not done, and some refurbished beachfront, which was also part of phase two, which was not done. So during the time this project was completed, the Parks and Rec staff was actually, Parks and Recreation Department was not staffed. So this project was actually supervised by members of the commission that are no longer members of the commission. So my knowledge of the project is really what I see when I go down there. So we're looking at some point to install a seasonal boat dock over the next few months. And my understanding is we can't do that until we get this completed. So, Kim had some questions that I know you need to address, so I'm here to address them. No as-built was ever prepared by the contractor on this job, so we don't have as-built plans. We've asked them for them, they're not gonna give it to us. So, we had the town engineer ask for them, they want to charge us an arm and a leg for them. We don't have the money to do that. So we need to figure that out. Another question that Kim had were about plantings in the proposed plan. The plantings were done, they weren't maintained, but they were done. All areas with proposed lawn and grass are established. We maintain the lawn, we maintain the grass. Sidewalks, play areas were all built according to the design plans. There was no excavation done to build the stone wall at the entrance. No excavation was necessary. So there was no disturbance of the original footing or surrounding wetlands. The wall was built with stone on the original footing. No machinery was used to build the wall. We think that Weston and Sampson came to the determination that wetlands replication was not necessary because there was no disturbance of wetlands to build that stone wall. So constructing replication areas would have disturbed existing areas that are functioning as wetlands. In regards to the proposed stormwater system for Phase 1, that was built according to design, which includes leaching trenches, drop inlets, catch bases, cleanouts, leaching basins, drain inlets, manholes, and outfalls to the lake. That's my understanding.
So,
Is that the police, 12.7? What's the black is
so
the next phase?
That's Phase 2.
Yeah.
Is that what
It never happened.
Phase 2 was the parking lot, stormwater.
Yeah, and some walking paths, some additional walking paths.
Can I add something? When, so Jay mentioned that there were some decisions made along the way that can't necessarily be confirmed by who made the decisions, but in any event, there was no project change request ever submitted for this project, so something like the wall not disturbing, it was decided by someone not to proceed with the replication, and probably because the replication areas would have been, substantially disturbed in order to put them in, and it's all grown in, it's all natural. So there were no project change requests that were submitted, and there was never an extension for an order of conditions requested, although the project appears to have been completed within the time frame of the order of conditions. That is, sometime in 2014 it was completed. And I think the order would have expired in 2015.
One thing I would like to add as well, the seasonal dock that we'd like to install next to the boat launch, we actually think would be better to serve the area surrounding it, because currently when people launch boats right now, the boat's kind of idle right there, and they can cause a disturbance to that area. We feel a boat dock would enable small boats to kind of loop around, and actually people would board 10 feet out from the boat launch rather than having the boat idle there with the propeller moving and disturbing the lake bed and the shore that's close to the boat launch.
Add one more thing, at least one more thing. With respect to as-bills, it appears that everything required as part of Phase 1 was done. So I think Parks and Rec would like to request that the design plans be an adequate substitute for an as-built, rather than going out and, at this point, getting an as-built done by someone.
But the design plans have work on there that wasn't actually built,
That's right. And I think
so we'd
in
have
the-
to run
That's
some.
right, and in this handout that Jay had, is clouded, marked up with what wasn't done in
Red
red.
sec, in red is what wasn't.
What was done in green. Or blue, I guess it's blue that was not done.
Although this path wasn't done, right? That's
Not
what
all
I
of
agree.
it, just part of it, I think was not done.
Oh, but this part was?
Part
Mr.
up to
Chair,
element.
Yes, go ahead.
typically, we request like a letter from an engineer that states that the work was done substantially in compliance or whatever with the drawing plans. So it seems feasible that you could at least get the town engineer to write a memo and say, this part was, done in accordance with the plans, and then maybe highlight, X, Y, and Z wasn't done, and reference the plans, and that might be sufficient.
I think he'd be pretty agreeable to that, because we actually walked the property with him.
And that would somewhat meet the requirement.
By the town engineer?
Well, it just has to be an engineer. I'm just suggesting that the town engineer might be amenable to putting together a memo that basically says that as an engineer, he certifies this and this was done and this wasn't.
So the
That's a good
certification and completion, I believe, was signed by Dan Terry, the chair of Parks and Rec Commission. I don't know if Dave would be willing to do that. He's not stamping anything. I guess he's just wanting to attest to,
Yeah,
but he was not involved with any of this. I mean, that's,
No, but he did tour it with us,
he did.
and
That's right.
he didn't seem to have any, reservations about the work being completed, and he pretty much confirmed that there was no disturbance.
Yeah, Kim has some photographs that she put up before, and I
What do you
guess,
think of Carrie's suggestion on having Lee put a memo together for the file?
I think that's a good suggestion.
And I think
after,
it would also probably help to say, why we don't have as-built. We get it, there's no funding, but if he writes,
so I
as-built
think,
plans completed
I think
part of
Jay
contract,
explained that
yeah.
in the COC application, right? So that's looking towards the parking lot, obviously. There's the new wall. If you look to the right of the left wall, you'll see what you can see of the stone that's there for the drainage trench. On the right side, you can see more of the stone that's there for the drainage trench. And in the foreground, there's stone, and it goes all the way up. So those are leaching, those are the,
Infiltration trenches.
yeah, thank you,
Okay.
leading to the culvert down
The runoff that's coming off of the new, now it's 10 years old,
there. Goes left and right.
it
There's
goes
a
left and
crown.
right?
There's a little bit of a
Okay,
crown.
and then into that trench system.
Correct.
and
There's a
off
little bit of a
the-
crown there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can confirm, there's never any puddles or standing water there after a rainstorm.
Yeah, it actually seems like that whole island's pretty much sinking. So,
Hence it's called.
Sandy Island.
You guys been there?
You want to do some more?
You have it, it's such an awesome place.
That's just the volleyball court, the grassed areas that are established. Okay, grassed areas down by the beach. What's left of the trees that were planted, maples, alders, some perennials. There's no trees taken out along there. What's that black thing called in there?
Gaga pit, go-go pit.
Oh, I thought it was like a
The
I have no
timeout.
idea what it was.
What's it called?
Gaga.
Yeah, kids run around inside.
I thought it was a timeout pit. When a kid's not behaving, you put him
Quite
in.
the opposite.
It's a child corral?
Yeah,
Oh,
yes.
Or
That's
down.
exactly what it is.
Oh, cool. I like it. You gonna use it?
Well, now that I know it's there.
All right, so why don't we have Dee put a memo together, Dave Del Torre.
Del Toro, so specifically, what would you like in the memo?
Just his, kind of, not certification, but
Opinion?
the opinion that, what was proposed and designed has been, as Carrie mentioned, substantially
Phase one.
complete, for phase one. Phase two wasn't conducted, just so we have it kind of documented and memorialized for project file.
Okay.
So the parking lot was phase two?
Yeah.
Yeah, parking lot, some additional costs. So Jeff, does considering approval of this need to wait for that? Or can that be done?
Yeah, I think we need to wait until we receive that, Kim.
Yeah, and I would respond to Jay. I think, I'm new here, so commission, speak up if I'm not correct, but my impression with the commission is that we look for good faith effort towards the COC to be able to move forward with another
Okay.
application, so I wouldn't say that waiting on that would necessarily preclude you from filing a notice of intent for that dock that we were
Okay.
talking about.
So we can maybe
So-
kill two birds with one stone on the 24th, is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I think you can do it in parallel, right?
Yeah, you should be able to do it in parallel.
Okay.
The 24th, we missed the application deadline for
Ah, shoot.
file.
All right.
That's what?
They can move forward with the notice of intent for the dock
Yeah, so actually I think it's,
while we're closing out the COC.
But yeah,
Well-
we'll get the paperwork in order and get
Okay.
you going and.
Okay.
so in that regard, the dock is a seasonal dock. It'll be, removed, put back. So I think an RDA would be appropriate, not a notice of intent, correct? I mean, it's on stanchions, plates on the lake bed.
It would have to be whatever we did for a homeowner in the past. For that
Is there a
season.
difference between a seasonal dock and a permanent dock?
Is a floating dock and a
There's
permanent
my
dock?
interpretation, the permanent dock would be there year-round.
Right.
We have to be consistent, so
Yeah.
with other docks of this nature, even though it's seasonal, it's still an NOI that we requested from homeowners, not an RDA. So I think, we have to have an NOI submitted.
NOI for the dock.
Notice of intent.
Yeah, okay, and I missed the deadline for the 24th, so we'll be meeting after that. Okay.
Jeff, if it were a floating dock, would that still be true? If it were just those big plastic floaty things? Where maybe you don't want to do that. So maybe
Yeah,
it's
no,
not-
we don't want to do that.
Okay.
But I think
I didn't know if
that's
that would
been
speed
the-
things up or not.
Yeah, but I think that's been the difference. If it's floating and it has no
Right, it's
built
not touching the
infrastructure
bottom.
touching the bottom, then we permanent different. But yeah, if it has some kind
We
of
didn't
Yeah.
already approve a dock there? I could have sworn we did, no? Like
that
a year ago?
ramp,
I thought we did, right?
At Sandy Beach?
Well, I'd have put it in by now if you did.
Obviously you didn't, or we would be having this conversation, but I thought we are, I thought.
I think they mentioned it when they asked for the extension of the boat ramp.
Maybe that's what
Yeah, they mentioned it though before.
Okay.
So I'll speak to town engineer tomorrow, get him to write you guys a memo with his opinion on that the work's been completed for phase one, phase two is not completed, and that in his opinion, no damage was done to wetland,
Oh, it doesn't have
doesn't even that, just kind of the work was completed.
Yeah, just the engineering piece of it.
Okay.
Well, then do you guys want the statement to say, no impact to wetlands appears to have occurred, therefore the application was not completed?
Yeah,
So
no
that's what we
disturbance,
No disturbance.
or no filling alteration or.
Well, I guess that's it. On this thing, it's disturbed wetland area A. So
Which
he
is
could say-
not.
That's what he would say, that there doesn't seem to be that occurred, nor the other.
Right.
Yeah, if you guys have any
Yes,
questions
right.
about what needs to be
There's
done,
nothing
Yeah,
disturbing.
so like-
Maybe I can talk to
line.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right.
I'll
Awesome.
just write
All
that.
they did was
Oh,
face.
actually, I'm in training tomorrow, but I can reach out to you on Thursday. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay, questions or comments from the public? Motion to continue this out to May 24th.
So move.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Hi.
Thank you very much, everyone.
You should still do the
I
parking
abstain.
lot.
For the record, I abstain.
And we still have to see phase two.
Okay. Let's see, Trails Coordination and Management Committee, this is the Mass Trails Grant, Center Trail to West Main, and Berry Acres Shared Use Pact. Good evening, Mr. LaDoy.
Good evening. Yeah, so by way of a little bit of history, Mass Trails has, the DCR Mass Trails program has a grant program where they will allow you to build various and sundry things or do engineering. Typically those programs, or their program gives grant money. You have to have your application in by February 2nd. Apparently they had more money this year, so they did a second round that they released mid-April with a requirement that the grants be in by mid-May, so May 16th, this coming Monday. We are looking at Trails Committee to design and construct our standard stone dust path. The purple, what's shown in purple there, just to the left of the loop road sign, is path that we actually already went to town meeting for. We had $75,000 from CPA funds to do that work. Obviously hasn't come to you folks. I'm sort of giving you background on that. We're right now, as you probably know, with the Center Trail and Hughes Trail and all those other trails they did, I used Robert Weidnick from Beals and Thomas to do that work for us, and then he went and retired, which has been somewhat frustrating. But that work is actually out. I have an RFP out to design firms to put a plan together. We have that one. There is a stream crossing there, so I suspect that'll be a notice of intent for that. And then the piece that is the subject of the Mass Trails grant is that stretch right through there. So what we've got money for right now is to the eastern section, which goes from Center Trail over to the Chamberlain Street extension. What we're looking for to get money from the Mass Trails grant is to go from that extension down to West Main Street. We've looked at this in the past. It actually is a little bit nicer trail if we can get on Eversource land, but trying to get hold of Eversource is pretty much impossible. And we can do it on our own land. There's two other crossings. One you can sort of see in the green just past that the private property. So just right in the just down right there. So there's an area there. Basically, it flows in both directions off the top of the hill, but there is a little stream through there. Mm-hmm. And then there's another stream that's down close to West Main Street that we're going to have to cross as part of that. And obviously, that's all going to come to you. As part of this process, what DCR is now requiring is to have landowner permission. And so I got landowner permission from Norman for all this is town land. There's that little piece on private is actually the town got an easement from the owner for that. Chuck Daughtry worked with REC to get that done. We have to get a authorization from the conservation, the CR holder, so we got that from Halt for the school property. Kim reached out today and said there isn't a CR on the Berry Acres piece, although that's under your ownership. Now the interesting thing with the landowner permission is that it says we have to get landowner permission, and then it says we have to get permission, but in everywhere on the form it talks about land manager as to who we have to get permission from. So while the town owns that, the manager is you folks.
Okay.
So given the time frame, long-winded way of saying, given the time frame, I basically said, look, I'll get Norman's signature and I should probably get your folks' signature on that as well.
Okay.
Just to be clear.
So you're looking for us to sign the documents you just started with the...
Right, and to sign it and then get a PDF of it ideally tomorrow so that I can put it in a package that then goes to Dave Del Torrio. We're submitting this, Friday, Monday time frame.
Okay.
And when we're submitting it as a joint venture with the Upper Charles Trail Committee, they're doing something over by Hopkins State Park, but this is the spur or connector trail off of their work.
All right. Any questions or comments from the commission?
You need signatures, do you have what needs to be signed?
I sent it to Kim.
I can take care of that, yeah.
Yeah. And then the question obviously is who signs it? Who is the land manager? Individual, the group? Because there's, one.
I guess as chair, I can probably sign it.
Yeah. Okay.
Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah, I think this is a great proposal. I love the idea of potentially connecting West Main Street with Payton Road and having all interconnected trails in there.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Is it a design-build project?
Yeah, basically. That's how I've been doing those trails. So there will be an engineering firm that'll do plans that I'll then bring to you folks, and then from there it's sort of, I do clerk of the works on it myself and work with my constructors.
Peter, did you say at the beginning it's to be a crushed stone trail? Is that what
Yeah, stone dust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why we're not just using the blue dotted lines, because those aren't stone dust.
Correct. Right, and that's actually pretty wet on a bunch of those, as you know.
The Mass Trails isn't requiring you to have permits in hand before you apply?
No. No, they're willing to pay for engineering through whatever, so Upper Charles has come in with a lot of theirs that are, with trails grants that are just to get the engineering to even start the process.
That'd break them up. How long is the grant for?
It's a year, so the work's got to be done by June 30th next year.
Design, permitting, building in a year?
Yep. Well, we did Echo Trail. That was, we got the money in July 2017 and built it we had to spend it by December 31st, 2017. We managed to do that one, so this is like double that. But yeah, it'll be tight.
Besides, we're getting lots of practice on Main Street.
Okay, questions or comments from the audience? Yes, Mr. Terry.
Thomas Terry from 17 Maple Street. I wanted to talk to Peter. I didn't intend to bring Peter into this, but this is a perfect time to maybe save the town some time. Recently, now I hear that this Conservation Commission is in charge of taking care of this property here. Well, what's happened with my land, with Mr. Ragosi there, or whatever his name is, Wall Street Development, the water that's coming down through here, Peter will attest to this because they've just had a swale built in here from here down to about here because of the water that's now coming from this place up here of his that never came. It's all of a sudden more water has shown up in the last year and a half to 2 years, just when he accelerated his construction work up there. And what it required a swale being built right here.
You're familiar with that swale?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I built it, so yeah.
You built it?
Right. And by the way, we did not have to go under the trail. We were able to stay on the...
Because the trail was all of a sudden getting washed out, all of a sudden, more than it ever did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
And that water, you noticed that too?
Yeah.
Now do we know where the water was coming from? The water was coming from Wood Street, like I've been telling you for 3 years. He's draining it straight down onto my field, through my field.
And when it comes down my field here, is his property, here's mine. When it comes down here, it now has no place to go. It's met with a large berm, so Peter had to build a swale. So now the swale is catching the water here. And it's a lot more than it ever was, because he is, instead of the water here, it used to go from this point over here, and as we all know, if our memories are in tune, the water always went from over to southeast to northwest. That's the way everything ran.
Well, now he's got the water running down here, and then he's got a spreader that he built up here that,
I don't know if anybody has the background as to what a spreader's going to do, and I don't, because to me it looks like the spreader is just acting like a pipe. It hits the spreader, goes through the spreader's large stones, rolls down onto my land, spreads out in this big field, Peter has to build a trench. Now, we got testimony from the chairman of the Trails Committee, that this is a new water situation that's taken place just about the time, coincidentally, that Mr. Wall Street has accelerated his project. So the reason I came up here tonight wasn't to talk about this. I didn't even know Peter was going to be here. But I wanted to bring the subject up to make sure the board knew that there was a construction job that took place from here to here. And it was very necessary, otherwise the thing was going to be washed away. So I think we still have to look back to, I don't want to bother Peter with this part because I've got nothing to do with Peter, was this situation about the water coming here, whether Beta has approved this situation.
Yeah, so that's a separate project. We are looking at that, Mr. Perry. And
Well, how could, if we're looking at it, Jeff, how could they dug a cellar hole last week. This week, they've got these stones in there. Tomorrow, the forms are being delivered. The foundation's going up next week. And you're sitting saying, oh, he hasn't got any permits for any of this. How is he doing it? And all of a sudden, we're going to see foundations, and we're going to say, oh, geez, I know how he did that.
So I don't want to get too much into that project, but just to give you some background, a cease and desist was issued by Kim in Lake Shepherd a few days ago.
Okay.
So that was delivered to Mr. Petrozzi. Whether he complies with that or not is...
Well, he's working up last week and yesterday.
Right. So...
What's the cease and desist mean to him?
Well,
I don't mean to take, I don't want to interrupt Peter's discussion.
So I think that'll be on the agenda at our next meeting, so just keep an eye out for that.
But we all do acknowledge that the water has increased in volume coming down through over my field and onto that, what used to be a berm.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so can I get a motion to sign the land ownership request?
As land
So
manager.
moved. As land manager. So moved. And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman?
Yes.
Before we lose Mr. LaGroy, may I ask a quick question about the cross-country trail? I think that was part of town meeting as well.
Yes,
Is
we
there a
have money to
timetable
fix
for
it.
repairing? And is any of the washout going anywhere close to the wetlands near the trail?
No, it's staying in that upstream drainage, and obviously we'll get shovels in there. That's a great Boy Scout project as far as I'm concerned. But we're going to get that fixed. The money from town meeting becomes available July 1st. I was actually out on this with the guy who does most of the construction, and let him know that we'll be looking to get going on that.
And remind me, that money was to study maybe some redesign of that path, or was that just to repair?
It's a combination of adding some drainage in and then putting the surface down. And obviously, before we put the surface down, we got to raise the whole thing up, because right now it's just the low spot.
I'm not sure what I voted for. Cool, thank you.
But yeah, it's to fix the drainage and make sure that functions and not as a wash area. Yeah. And also, one last thing is that we had our trail volunteer workday on this past Saturday, and a lot of the silt fence, all of it along the stretch along Hughes and the woods is gone.
Oh, good.
It's in the town dumpster. After doing all of it, we realized there's a couple more pieces that are still out there. We will get those too, but the vast majority of it's gone. So it looks quite nice actually with it gone.
Thank you, Jeff, for giving me that question.
Sure, yeah, thank you, Peter. Okay, so moving along, Hughes property, 92 Hayden Road, this is a discussion regarding management, transfer of the parcels under custody of the Concom, transferring that to open space preservation.
So I'll start. This has been suggested to open space, that having those all those parcels that are up there around Hughes and Hughes, et cetera, having it be under one oversight, someone with the budget and money to manage it and take care of it would be a useful thing. This is not something that originated from open space, so the main I almost said procrastinator.
Proponent is the word you were looking for.
Protagonist.
Protagonist is the one I was looking for. Is here, Mr. Morigasha, so if you could come and talk to it, that would be good.
Yeah, so,
one more thing. Besides myself, we have Steve Lewandowski and Nancy Peters from Open Space.
okay, so this came about because, as you may or may not be aware, the light blue property, the 3 parcels there, are slated to have a conservation restriction to halt, and halt would be managing those parcels. Given that the trails through there go through the dark blue parcels, and ignore what it says about ownership, all those dark blue parcels are under Concom ownership. So given the trails are going through many of those other parcels already, it really makes sense for the entire set of 12 parcels there to be under the same management. And so HALT proposed that they all be transferred to OSPC, not transferred, but become under OSPC management in terms of trails, boundary monitoring, protection of the property, signage, whatever else comes up. Obviously, Concom would be involved for any stream crossings or bridges and things like that. But other than that, just a transfer of the management responsibility.
Okay, all right, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. Just a couple questions. So we're not talking about if there's this existing CR on one of the parcels, that means the commission as, the custodian for that particular parcel. We're not proposing to change the CR.
No, there isn't a CR in any of those blue parcels, dark blue parcels. The CR, which is not there yet, will be only on the light blue parcel, which is the main Hughes property.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Jeff?
Yes.
I think that what's needed is a CR for the Concom-owned land. Because I don't think the actual ownership, right? So it's it's the citizens of the town of Hopkinton that owns it, but Concom is the second owner and the manager.
Yeah, Concom is
But
specified
I don't
in the
think you can
deed.
transfer the ownership from Concom to OSPC.
No, can't.
So that means that it would require a CR.
It wouldn't require, I don't recommend a CR, it's kind of onerous.
How would we do it?
OSPC would just be given the responsibility to manage those parcels. It wouldn't change what the deed says, which is under Concom ownership, basically. And you don't need a CR to do that.
Right.
So we would sort of appoint open space to
Yes.
be our managers.
Yes.
Okay. And then how, I think you had mentioned, or Ed mentioned that there would be some funding that open space would be looking towards.
We actually have money.
Open
Through
space.
the generosity of the town and the foresight of Barry Rosenberg.
Okay. So, I just want to make sure that the commission wouldn't need to provide that funding. It would be through
Right.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. You unload it all on our big shoulders.
Right, all that money we've been spending on those properties?
Right.
We don't have to worry about that anymore. We can take it right out of our budget.
We can put that to Moses' raise.
Jeff, as you and I discussed too, this is when the Trails Coordination Management Committee was set up. Like the third charge of ours is to help the selectmen figure out how to manage the property, because the town recognized that there's all these properties that really the town is not doing anything with. So the idea is to get a little more professional and have one entity who's responsible for setting rules and figuring out how land is to be used. I mean, there's other properties in town that, like we're doing the trail behind Center School, and a chunk down there is owned by the water department, so we have to get approval from the water department. Why? You know, the parcel that has the Wellsville Trail on it is owned by the DPW. Again, they know nothing about land, so this allows it to be a little more professionally organized.
Yeah, consistent.
Yeah, and I think the idea is to try it and see how it works here, and then perhaps spread it through the rest of town, but use this as a model. You know, particularly because Maury has this Maury and the town have this immediate need.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense to me, and I'm all for it, but let me open up the comments from the other commission members.
Yeah, I agree, it's good to be consistent.
Consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds.
So do we need a vote?
Well, questions or comments from the audience? Kim, do we need to vote?
I would at least vote on it, just in case.
Okay, this is like a motion to have the property that's managed by the Conservation Commission in proximity to the Hughes property, that be managed by open space.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you.
That was all.
Did you vote on these, like the permission?
Who made the motion? Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night, folks. Thank you.
Most exciting of the night, and they all leave.
Right.
All right. You at least remember that. Request for new signature page.
Yeah.
The COC.
So, Higgins Farm, the commission has issued 3 full certificates of compliance on. One got recorded in recorded land, one got recorded in land court, but I guess there was an issue with one of the title references on the COC. So we have a house for sale that the attorney for the seller is requesting it get re-signed so that he can now record this document for the 3rd time.
Okay.
So it's just we just need an original. The original is no longer in our possession, so we just need a new original to be able to allow him to record this at land court to clear his client's title.
All right, sounds pretty straightforward. So it's just administrative. We don't need to vote on it, correct? Everyone okay with that?
Are we literally passing stuff on?
Not yet. But
I
think
can.
we will. There were no public forum requests, right, Kim?
Nope.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else?
Were we going to sign the weed management before we leave?
Yes.
Yes, we have a few documents.
Yeah, do not leave until you sign.
Do we have to sign them when the meeting's open? I mean, I just don't know the protocol. No, I guess not, since we've gone in the back door and signed documents sometimes, right?
This is why you get quoted in the newspaper.
If you guys would rather.
I hope that gets quoted. That'll be good in the newspaper.
If you guys would rather pass it signed, that's fine. I mean, I'm just doing what I used to do with
No,
my
no,
old
it's
commission.
fine.
It's a signature at the door. Yeah.
We used to pass and sign, that's why it's very confusing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, a motion to
We can
adjourn.
change that.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I hope my motion gets quoted in the newspaper.
We usually just go out the back door.
I'm interested to see if the independent talks about that guy's pool.
Meeting, maybe Anna or Kim let me have any pertinent information that's available for perusal before that meeting.
You would think, you listen
I'll
to these
check
guys
with
talk
Kim.
about the safety of that poor kids in their
Have an
backyard.
email address too.